Hello and welcome to
Hey, we like your Outback Packers pod. It's a joint episode, folks.
It's a joint episode. Hey, we like your pod, and we're joined by another podcast. So it's a double podcast night. And hey, Lorenzo in the comments, it's good to see you. Welcome, everyone. How are you doing? Joe, Iowa Joe, let's start with you. How was your week?
It was pretty good. You know, the weather got a little bit warmer, so we had to kick on the AC here in Iowa. So, you know, it was getting pretty warm in the house. But, you know, other than that, working and just trying to, like we were talking before hitting the live button, Nick and I have been trying to come up with what we're going to do for the off season now that the draft is done and we're in that kind of lull. So a lot of it's just been, you know, scouting out, inviting people on and trying to get things figured out with that. So, but I'm glad we got this week figured out, you know, the crossover nobody wanted.
The crossover you didn't know you wanted until you. How does that go? Anyway, Patty, how was your week? Tell us all about your week. You had a good week, didn't you?
The crossover that has lived in my heart since you guys started your podcast is what it is. So speaking of you guys, we're talking here about Iowa Joe, and Nick Greger will be back in with us in a little bit. He's had some stuff, so he'll be joining us soon. And those are the guys who make up the Outback Packers podcast. And for those of you who are listening to the Outback Packers episode this week, they are joined this week by Dawn and myself, Matt Pickett, who are the people who do Hey, We Like Your Pod. So coming to you on two different podcast feeds this week.
Yeah,
but anyhow, I'm good. I'm
yet
good.
to do a good day, so you just hang in there. Nick will be here and give you the good day. I always make him give him one at the beginning. So
very important.
Nick will be here shortly. Well, we want to hear about your week, Matt, and we're also excited because today's the day that the NFL season schedule was released.
Can you tell it's late?
Oh, I'm a little out of it.
About all draft for months. I'm good. It is the last week before summer orientation starts at UC. And so it's kind of like the calm before the bananas craziness, basically. But it's been a good week. People who follow me on Twitter may have seen that I won an award at work this week, which is pretty fun. So let's have some recognition there, felt good. So I'm having a heck of a week. It's good. How about you, Dawn? I'm
having a heck of a week too.
In a good way?
In a good way.
Okay.
I'm excited. Tomorrow I'm going with a couple of friends to the safari park in San Diego. It's this very special place where they save nearly extinct animals, but you get to interact with them, and it's very educational. But they also, in spring every year, they have a butterfly exhibit.
Mm.
And so they just bring in these really cool butterflies, and you go in. It's a really kind of a process. You have to be all kind of sanitize your hands, and you have to be checked before you go in. And then you go in a special room, and then you go in by the butterflies, and you get 20 minutes with the butterflies, and it's just a small number of people get to go each time. And nice. You just get to do that, and they give you things to hold, so they come to you, but usually they're on your head and everything, on your hats and stuff. And then you have to go through like a triple inspection when you leave to make sure none of the butterflies leave with you. But then you go into a really cool exotic bird aviary, kind of cool place with just amazing birds that you never see anywhere else. And so, and it's the last week. So we're just getting there on time, just in time before the show is over. Because a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, I want to go see the butterfly, and then it's like, oh, it's June and they're gone, and what happened to the butterflies?
Not this time, Dawn. You're gonna get the butterflies while the getting is good.
Just don't walk out with them. Don't walk out with them.
No, I'm not going to
steal any
butterflies.
They will stop you dead in your tracks. Because they do a thing like that in Cincinnati too, at one of the local Cincinnati Parks conservatories, and it's the same kind of deal. It's like you have to go through chambers to get there, and there's only so many people, and they inspect you afterwards. So it's the same exact thing done, and they are serious about that. But for anybody out there who has access to this kind of an experience to like be in a room with butterflies, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is friggin' magical. It's amazing.
It really is. The first time I went was like decades and decades ago. I felt like I was having an out of body. I mean, I couldn't feel my feet when I walked out of the butterfly exhibit. And I'm not really a butterfly person because they're technically bugs and I don't like bugs.
Beautiful find.
And so I was really worried, like, am I going to swat at them and stuff because they were everywhere.
They're going to kick Don out for killing the
I
butterfly.
know, check out them.
Yep. It's going to happen. Yep.
But I didn't swat them, and I was very
Local
calm.
lady gets jailed for killing precious butterfly.
Yeah, that could happen in California. You don't want to hurt an animal here. So, but I've been a few times over the years, and I never swatted one. I got a little startled. Usually it's because somebody will be like, oh, there's a butterfly on your head. And I'm like, ah! I don't want things that walk on my head, but I just wear a hat, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, wear a hat anyway because you're out there and it's sunny and that kind of thing. It's out in the San Pasquale Valley. It's so beautiful. There are actually a lot of, there's just an incredible global kind of biodiversity program here because so many different things grow, and it's a very unique area, especially the valley. But they're trying to also maintain a area for the longhorned sheep that live up on the rocks.
Okay.
And it used to be back in the day, and I've seen them many times in California out in nature, but back in the day you would see them. But now you never see them because they really are disappearing before our eyes, a lot of these animals. So,
well, and to jump on that, I was just talking about, and this is weird to go off on these tangents. I'm not used to it.
This is what our show's like.
Yeah, I know. But
wife.
I was just telling my mom that I was reading an article that black bear are coming back into Iowa. They haven't been prominent here in like 100 years, and now they're starting to see more and more of them come back in. And it's like, okay, well, these animals are running everywhere, not knowing where to go. So I guess they're going wherever they can.
I just heard today in Idaho, if you're listening, not happy about this, they're going to start killing off the wolves. And a lot of
I don't like that.
For trophy hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I don't get it. I don't get that at all. I follow a wolf page, and every day they have a different wolf on, and they're howling and talking, and you see the babies, and it's like, what would possess somebody to want to shoot an animal like that? I don't.
We get the same stuff out here with coyote hunters and raccoon trappers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand protecting your property from an animal that's trying to attack you, especially out here with all the farms and that. But to actively hunt them, because a coyote's basically just a dog. And if you've ever seen the puppies, they're just adorable as adorable
so
can be.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's crazy what people do. And, they'll put laws in place where you can't hunt Sasquatch, but, you can go out and hunt wolves all day long.
Yeah, in Idaho anyway. Yeah, my sister just sent a picture of a puppy coyote yesterday that was in her area. Yeah, but this is trophy hunting, so it's not.
Well, these guys do it for the pelts. The raccoon trappers and the stuff like that'll just do it for the skins,
Ugh.
But it's not my type of thing. If I'm going to hunt, it's going to be for food, not for the sport of it. Yeah. But I guess whatever, until somebody says no, they're going to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I know we're bringing it down now.
Yeah, right.
So the safari park it's part of the San Diego Zoo, which is also known for its global initiatives and work helping preserve animals that are dying off, species that are dying off. So
So that's where you were from then, by San Diego?
I'm in yes, I'm originally from Wisconsin, but I've been
Okay.
out here more than half my life.
I don't get to mix around with you guys too much, so this is a learning experience for me just
Oh,
as well as it's going to be for you guys. So I'm learning. But no, my mom had an uncle that lived out in San Diego for years, and his son still lives out there. So
oh,
it's
cool. So, okay, so you're from Iowa, I'm
yes,
guessing,
ma'am.
because your name is Iowa Joe.
I always get that. It's a funny story why I get called Iowa Joe, and it's because I go up to the Packer training camps. Well, other than the last few years because of COVID and stuff like that, but I always went up to the Packer training camps. My mom started me out when I was a wee little lad, and then it kind of spanned from there. And I skipped a few years because, being a broke college student and stuff like that, who had the money to go up to Green Bay.
Right.
But anyway, when I started going back up, I always, Iowa and Wisconsin's, the universities always have like a rivalry because of Big Ten, whatever. So I always kind of rub it in the spot. I always wear like an Iowa Hawkeye hat or an Iowa Hawkeye shirt or something. And I got to meet some really good people up there, and there for a bit when you're getting in with these people and you're starting to learn names. One day they just started saying, "Hey, Iowa," just starting calling me Iowa. So it just kind of formed from there that it
I
went
like
from
it.
Iowa to Iowa Joe and all that. So and then it just made sense to start making all my handles Iowa Joe and things like that.
I
So
like it. I like So your mom was a Packer fan? Was she from Wisconsin or
my
how
mom came from a split family. Her parents got married, had a couple kids, or well, 4 kids, and then they got divorced. My grandpa stayed around the area that we live in now, and then my grandma got remarried, and they eventually landed in Wisconsin. So my mom kind of grew up in between Wisconsin and Iowa,
Okay.
and so yeah, she spent probably half her life up there and half her life down. Well, now over half her life because we've stayed around the area for ever and ever. But yeah, she where was it? They started out in like Shawano, then went to Belgium, or no, Sheboygan Falls, and then Belgium, and then they stopped in Sheboygan. So all around up there. And then of course I've lived around here all my life, and then every so often during the summers when I was a kid, I'd go stay with my grandma and grandpa up there. So
So you're in Iowa now.
yes.
Okay.
Yep,
Cool.
born and raised. I unless I win the lottery, I'll probably stay here for the rest of my life too. So, knock on wood, I'll win that lottery one of these days though.
Well, there are worse places to live, that's for sure. So
yeah, I suppose.
Everywhere you live has its pros and cons for sure.
I know the area good. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's great to get to know you a little better. We always ask people what made them become a Packer fan. So it sounds like it was sort of ingrained in you.
Pretty much. I would go up there and some of I'll be 37 this year, so it's relatively, I'm not young anymore, but I'm also not old yet. So I still kind of I always tell people I do slightly remember when Mikowski was quarterback, just before the Favre era.
Yep.
So I just barely remember that time. And I really wasn't into football at the moment. And, I know this is going to scare people off, but I actually the first player that I ever loved was Joe Montana. But it was because I was so young. And, when you're young, you always when somebody has the same name as you kind of gravitate towards them. Well, Joe Montana at the time was still a pretty big thing. And, you'd hear about him or you see commercials or whatever. So, it was just natural that I went that way. But I'd never seen him really play. I knew he was a football player, and I knew he was a big name player and all that stuff. But then I would go, we'd go up to Wisconsin to my grandparents for like Christmas or something. Well, during the week, eventually there'd be a Packer game on, and you'd have, the family sitting around watching the Packer games and everything. And then it kind of spawned from there. And then I got to learning that, Sheboygan's only about an hour from Green Bay. So then mom started taking me up to the training camps, and then it just kind of went I never did the bike ride stuff because, obviously hauling it from Iowa to Wisconsin was kind of, and then, you know, my grandparents didn't really have the biggest store. They had a nice house, but they didn't have the biggest storage spaces for their stuff. So you
Right.
couldn't really keep it there. And so I never really did the bike rides, but you know, we went through the Hall of Fame before it went into Lambeau itself. So I remember when it was over by the Resch building. And so yeah, it was pretty fun. And then I just kind of went from there, and it just kind of grew.
Yeah, that is so cool. You have those opportunities, Joe. I love that. Like, I wish I could go back in time and do something like that as a kid. You know, just have that sort of magical experiences.
It was crazy because, you know, you always see it on TV, but you never see, you never know the full, what do I want to say, the grandeur of everything until you're actually standing there. And especially when you're 9, 10 years old and you're standing and you're just seeing this giant building, and then you see these players, you know, I always laugh because it goes to figure that, you know, I did get to see them ride the bikes. Well, I always have this funny story about one of my first times up at training camp that Ross Verba almost hit me on a bike because they didn't have the barriers in that like they do now. If you ever see the pictures at training camp, it was just a free for all. You could be walking down the street, you cross the street, and these players would just be zooming in and out. Well, go figure, a guy from Iowa who played at the University of Iowa is going to run over a kid from Iowa. So, you know, it's sorry, my eyes are burning from my allergies. So and then meeting Gilbert Brown, you know, being 9 or 10 years old and you have this mountain of a man standing in front of you. It was really, and then, like I said, that just kind of put the drive in you to be that fan. And I guess, you know, unless for some strange reason they leave Green Bay or whatever, then, you know, it might change then, but, you know, it's I always call it Packer family. Now I have shirts around here somewhere that I made that says Packer family on it. And Nick has one. And some of my other good friends have them because of, you know, because I always view it as family. We're not fans, we're family because the public owns the team. So, and we'll get Nick in here now that he finally showed up from the Aussie.
That's right. Nick's here. Hey, Nick, welcome.
That's a great memory. And Nick is with us now for those of you who are listening and not watching. Nick has joined the party. How are you, Nick? How was your week?
G'day, everyone. How are we? Sorry I'm late. I just came from uni, heaps of public transport issues and whatever, but we're here now.
I'm
you know, I was really sore that I missed you guys in the live stream we did for the draft. So it's really nice to catch up with you and, you know, talk about the draft now that it's over.
Yes, talk about the draft. And did you see the new schedule release yet, or were you busy all day?
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
So, okay, so how about if we go around, starting with Joe, then Nick, then Matt, and then I'll go last. What game are you, or what about the schedule? It doesn't have to be a game. Are you most excited about? Makes you most happy?
Oh, you want me to go to first?
Yeah.
Go for it, Joe. It's here, man.
Okay. Well, obviously, week 1, it's Chicago. You know, what better way to start the Jordan Love era than, you know, starting it out with Chicago? You know, it'd be great to see Jordan Love go out there and finally shut up Bear fans that are saying Justin Fields is the better quarterback and all that stuff. So, you know, obviously there's going to be a lot of growing pains. So I don't expect it to be a 19-0 season, or, you know, what is it now, 20-0 all the way to the Super Bowl. But, you know, to start out strong against a division rival with a starting quarterback, or the first year starting quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the one that I look forward to. The other one that I personally, if I were to go to one, it would be the Chargers game.
Me too. Yeah. Me too.
What was it? 2015 was the last time they were in Green Bay, and that was the second game I had ever been to.
Oh, wow.
Or third game I'd ever been to. So this would be just kind of like an anniversary thing, going up to the Chargers game again.
I think that one's like November 19th or something like that.
And that's
gonna be a little
almost
cold.
exactly the day. I think the game that I went to in 2015 was October 29th or something like that. So it's
Mhm.
relatively within that time.
What about the schedule makes you happy, Nick?
I just think there's a lot of opportunities here for Jordan Love to kind of cement himself, and also not like too difficult. You know, it's not like too hard of a schedule, at least on first glance. For me, I'm really excited for us to get the Chiefs again at home this time. It's a really good opportunity for Jordan. I don't expect us to win at this point, but if Jordan can kind of get some redemption, and because of course for him it's going to be a big deal, and
Sure.
it absolutely should be, and I think that's going to be a really exciting game because I think the Packers, even when they haven't been as good, we talked about this quite a bit on the pod. It's like they play down to the bad teams, but they also play up to good teams. So I think it'll still be tight. So I'm really excited for the Chiefs game.
That's a good one, Maddie.
Yeah, I like both those answers. Joe, I want to comment on yours because I feel like having week one, giving Jordan the chance to go down, start the tone for like the new era of the rivalry, put down a down payment, on the ownership of the Bears. I'm very excited for that one. I was glad they put that right up in the front of the schedule. I kind of wish we were at Lambeau instead, but like whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Here, there, anywhere, we're gonna beat you. We're gonna beat you, Bears. So excited about that, and I want to mention too that I'm really glad that the Chiefs game is like so late in the schedule. It's like probably like week 13. It looks like, because that way the team has a chance to grow and settle in and develop a bit. And I really kind of view this year not as a a rebuild or a reset or a whatever else that we've been hearing all week on Twitter, but rather it just feels like a growing year for me. So the schedule I think is so perfect for that because it's not as hard a schedule as say like the Jets have, which I think is hilarious. And it's gonna give them that chance to like get in there and start to develop and start to gel as a team. And I think we'll see a lot of growing pains, and I think we'll see a lot of like hiccups and like moments like that. But that said, kind of going a little off book here, the game I'm most excited about just initially is actually the preseason. The Packers are going to come and play the Bengals in the preseason. So there's like a bonus Bengals game because they only come down here once every 8 years.
Yeah.
So
wow, yeah.
Special bonus.
Oh, maybe you can go to that one.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm definitely going to be there. It's 6 miles from my house.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Trying to talk some people into coming too. I think I may have a couple folks already who have said they'd be here for it. So going to build up a little party of people. I'm excited about that. So, but I'm definitely going to get up to Lambeau for a game. That Dawn and I were talking about trying to coordinate that. So I'm excited to get that squared away. Finally meet Dawn in person. And actually, I was talking to my dad. So my dad lives in Wisconsin. And he told me the other night we were talking that turns out my cousin has a hookup and can probably get some tickets for us. So TBD on that. But that was an exciting development. So
that's cool.
Lots to look forward to there. That all of that said, I'm going really long-winded here, I realize, but if there's one single game I'm the most excited about, if I had to stop and pick one, all of them. No, it's week one. It's definitely week one, and then of course playing them again at the back end of the season is going to be kind of culminating. It's like the last week we played them first and last. Actually, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And to do the rivalry games back to back to finish out the season is pretty interesting. Vikings straight into the Bears, so
that's right.
Yeah. Well, I was excited. Well, first of all, the Chargers release video, and they're comparing every team to a Pop-Tart. That was fantastic. I am very proud of what the Packers did. It's progress. It was exciting. We have to encourage them.
That's right.
It wasn't the Chargers are my favorite social media to follow anyway.
They're amazing.
They just knock it out. I love that. I'm also really thinking that this year it might be good to have that early buy that they gave us. I'd rather have a more middle range one, but I think since Jordan is new and there's going to be some maybe hiccups and things that bye week early might be really a blessing.
Yeah, a lot of young guys on the team, not used to a full 17 game schedule. It's going to help having that early rest for them. That way they can have the rest of the season to get right from the
Mhm.
early start. So yeah, I get that.
I'd love to see the Chargers. I just don't know if I could handle November in Wisconsin. 'Cause that's
That
getting, that's like November 19th, I think. That's getting
Yeah.
really close to Thanksgiving, so it'd be pretty cold, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I was there for when they played the Cowboys. I want to say that was like the week before that, basically.
Mhm.
It was freezing. And I actually
Yeah.
drove through a blizzard to get up to Wisconsin when I went
Yeah.
up there for that. So yeah, I mean, that's gonna be cold, Dawn. We might
Yeah,
want to pick
so that's a
an
no.
earlier
So
one.
maybe I'll wait till the Packers come here to watch them. And hopefully it'll be a couple more years.
We'll go to Vegas. You can go to the Raiders game,
Or
go up to
Vegas.
Vegas,
Yeah, I
hit the
really
slots
don't.
before you head over to the stadium.
don't love the Raiders. It's a thought. It's a thought.
But that's
They're
going to
playing
be a good one.
Devontae. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jai and Devontae. That's going to be a heck of a matchup. I don't know how
Right.
you guys are with cussing, so I got to try to censor myself sometimes.
We try to keep it a little
Appreciate
family
that.
show. And Lorenzo is back. Lorenzo is saying, hey, Lorenzo,
Lorenzo.
tell us in the comments what you're excited about for this upcoming schedule. Which game would you like to see if you could? Okay, so yeah, it was a fun. I saw that the schedule got leaked. I was so busy today. I really didn't have hands free. I was listening to some things, but I was informed that the schedule got leaked. But I still wanted to give the props to Green Bay and give them the traffic on their site because
they really need to get, and they did good today, but they really need to get somebody in there to do their social media stuff because when minor league baseball teams are out doing your professional football teams, there's a little bit of an issue there. But I didn't get to watch it yet. But even the Titans did a good one where they went out on the street and were having people. They were just showing them the emblem and the people were guessing what the team name was or whatever it was. And so I didn't get to watch it, but I was seeing little clips of it.
Yeah, I saw a couple little clips, and I think that's good. I'd like to watch all of them. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
As much as I want
a week, I won't be interested anymore.
I'm going to try to find like time, like probably at lunch tomorrow to kind of check out most of the videos because a lot of them are so good. But like Joe, I feel like if the Packers like actually, got like Tyler, Herrick to like do their socials or something, right? Like I don't it would be weird because I feel like the organization has such like an image of being kind of old school, and when I say conservative, I don't mean politically, but like, conservative,
right?
Like kind of buttoned down, I don't know. Would the building implode or something? Like, what would happen if they did something funny on social media?
Well, you would know if things really changed is if they got Hard Knocks. HBO came in and got Hard Knocks. If the Packers ended up on Hard Knocks, then you would definitely have to say, all right, we got to start stepping up the media and all. Then everything has changed. But yeah, they have been a little bit more old school with their technology and that, but you'd think with them being a public owned team and all that they would want to engage more with their social medias because that's how they basically make their money is because the people buying the jerseys and the hats and all that stuff, and you'd want your social media to kind of pop. Otherwise, you just kind of look like a ho-hum, whatever. I know you'd rather see the play on the field and let the play on the field talk for you. But, it helps when, I had to give Aaron Rodgers props on it when he would walk in after beating Minnesota, and he's drinking grape crush.
Grape crush, yeah.
So, if the social medias would start doing stuff like that, I think it would help out a little bit more. And I think it might calm some groups of fans down a little bit too, because they could laugh instead of trying to pick apart every small little thing.
True. Right.
Well, that's, thinking about what you're saying here, Joe, social media as a driver for engagement is obviously like kind of the point ultimately, like for a corporation. But maybe the reason why they're not as invested in that and haven't put the resources and the time into developing like more of a presence like the Chargers clearly have is because, I actually saw the metrics on this today because people were talking about it on Twitter. The Packers are like one of the 4 most popular teams by any metric. So it's like they know they have like one of the biggest, most devoted fan bases. So they're like, we're gonna make money because people are gonna want to buy our stuff and
Yeah.
watch our games. Like we don't need to drive that engagement. Whereas a team like the Chargers or like say like the Rams, which don't have as established fan bases, maybe they need to put that work into that, you know. Of course, also, I mean, the Chargers especially have like developed reputation for being good at that game, so you know they got to keep doing it. But
yeah, well, and
I wonder if that's
to
part of
kind
it. I wonder if
of
that's part of it.
and well, then to kind of counter that, you also got to realize that a lot of the younger generations are stuck to their cell
True.
phones and their
True.
social
Right.
medias, and you know, if you want to keep the fan base to growing, you know, from young to old instead of your fans, you know, aging out, you got to kind of step into the time. Now, I'm not saying they need to go out and have Mark Murphy doing TikTok dances.
No,
And,
please no.
That'd be great.
I wish they would.
you know, but you know, at least have somebody, not all the time, but somebody sitting back there on with the Twitter who just got out of the game and is two sheets to the wind, and you know, ha ha ha, we just, you know, beat the heck out of you guys. And,
Mhm.
Well, yeah,
you know,
I was gonna ask you guys. Do you feel like, obviously not directly, but I can't say because I've never been to America, let alone a game. Do you feel like this kind of ties into the whole why Lambeau home field advantage just kind of like died a little bit in recent years?
Mm.
You know, like, people always talk about. I always see it on Twitter. People are like, you know, no one's really standing up as much as they used to. No one's as loud as they used to be. Partially because the fan base is getting older, and there's the people who just want to kind of see the games, not people who want to be as involved or like, you know, get drunk or whatever. Yeah, like, do you feel like that's something that's actually like connected?
I don't
I think
think
so.
I don't know that it's connected to. I'm just going to jump right in. Sorry, I don't know that it's connected to whether there's a home field advantage because that's more play. But I will say what I wanted to say is that that there's this thing in corporate accounting that's called goodwill. You can actually put a value on it in the books, right? For the value of your company. We don't have to sell it. We're not going to sell our company. So it's a little different.
right.
And so in a way, I think sometimes, and I think that social media has become a part of that, building goodwill among your fan base, especially in the NFL. So it may be that the Packers don't feel like they have to do that, but I don't want to say it that way because that kind of sounds negative. But in a way, it does require a person or personnel actually sitting there and doing this job, graphic design and somebody with marketing background. And that's not cheap if you want somebody good.
Well, you know, they've got St. Norbert's there. They just hire a couple of college interns and, you know, they can do that on the cheap. And I have to go back to one of the training camps that I went to in, I want to say it was 2013. And it seemed like they were engaging a little bit on social media because that's right around the time that all these social medias were really starting to get the boon, the Twitters, the Instagrams, and stuff like that. And when the players would ride up, they would hand the player like this video camera that was in a thing that looked like a hand where they would high five and stuff like that. And these players were just walking around with the camera and playing for the crowd. You know, even if it's just something like that on the social medias, then I would think that would be great. But you know, it seems like the only thing that they release on their Twitter page is just, you know, we play next week.
Yeah, it's limited.
Yeah, there's not really any pop there. I mean, like I said, I'm also a Braves fan on top of a Packers fan. And I was just scrolling through one of their minor league teams, and I was just literally laughing out loud because of the stuff that their social media, and it's like these guys aren't making hardly anything in the minor leagues.
Right.
And you guys are a $1 billion team. You can't hire Jim Bob from down the street to do your socials, but
maybe just somebody young. Well, and I think the other part of what Nick, what you were saying is, so at Lambeau, there are lots of season ticket holders that have been there for years. It's been in the family and that kind of thing. And what I've heard, mentioned is that the season ticket holders don't even go to the games. They just basically are selling tickets because they're so valuable to the visiting team. And so part of that Lambeau advantage as far as the fandom isn't there anymore. It's not, I don't know that it's because people are old and they're just sitting there and not, jumping, getting excited.
For sure,
That
That's
too.
part of it, though,
But I think
because
part of it's-
I know people who have went into games and they're standing and they're hooting and hollering and they've got
people tell them to shut
people
sit down.
shut up and sit down. We're trying to watch
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
and to me that ruins the whole aesthetic, because if I just want to sit there and watch the game, I'll watch it on my 100-inch flat screen TV at home and
Right.
go to the bathroom when I want to and drink as much alcohol as I want to. And, but if I'm going to the game, I want to interact with the game. I want to hear the fans erupt and like teams like Seattle and that, where they have to pump in the artificial noise. Green Bay used to be known for their being loud,
Yeah.
and it's pretty sad that they have to throw stuff on the jumbotrons to stand up and make noise, and you got the coaches on the sidelines pumping the arms up because they
Yeah.
never used to have to.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think a lot of it, not a lot of it, I'll say part of it has to do with the age. Once you hit a certain age, I know me, I don't know if I could go to a game anymore just because of how my back issues and stuff like that, and sitting on the bleacher seats and stuff like that. So I can understand where people just want to sit there because they finally got comfortable enough that they don't want to get up out of the seat. So, but yeah, it that's part of the problem. And like Dawn said, the selling of the tickets is another part of the problem. When face value of the ticket is $125, but you have to pay $300 just to get it to go to the game. That's tempting to sell the ticket
Right.
rather than just go.
Right.
Well, and Nick, I think you're actually onto something here. I do like that connection you're making between like a big part of the fan base aging out and how that does kind of feel like reflective of the attitude towards social media from the team. And I think those things might be connected. I think Don, you have a good point about like selling tickets to opposing fans, which is a heinous act in and of itself. Like, don't do that. What's wrong with you? What kind of fan are you?
There's enough Packer fans out there. You could find somebody and say, "Hey, I've got an extra ticket or whatever."
Seriously. But it does make me think of when I was at the Cowboys game. I watched the last quarter of it from like down, like really, really close to the field. Whereas I watched the first 3 quarters, like way up in the nosebleeds, and it was up that high. It wasn't super loud, which I kind of expected because we were so far away from the action. But when I got down by the close to the field, I was shocked at how many people were trying to tell us to like sit down and shut up, when it was the Cowboys game where we're coming from behind, beating a team we had no business beating, honestly, with like super exciting, going to overtime and finish on that. And with, as Christian Watson's breakout game with 3 touchdowns, like it was a super exciting game. And so to be there for like the really exciting like end of it, and there's people like, we're trying to sit down. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, get on your feet. This is like a transformative experience. Like, it drove me nuts. So that's definitely a thing that goes on.
I've heard that. I don't think I will do well with that. I saw a video of a guy. I don't know if it was at a baseball game or a football game, but it was this older guy, and he was doing this dance down the stairs. When he was getting his beer, and I'm like, I'm gonna do a dance. I'm gonna do a dance when I get to Lambeau. I gotta do a Lambeau dance down the stairs, up the stairs.
Don's going viral.
That's right.
And everyone will hate me. It'll be great. Sit down, lady.
Dawn's gonna get kicked out of the Lambeau game because she's fighting with people telling her to sit down and shut up.
I'll probably get beat up is what'll happen.
Oh man.
Yeah, if I'm having a good time and somebody's gonna do that. I thought about that. It's funny we're talking about this. Like, I wonder if that's really a thing. Yeah.
And I've only been to like 4 or 5 games, and I never really personally had that issue.
Good.
But I know people who go to games often and they've had that issue. Where, matter of fact, was it Cheesehead TV that made the shirt the "Don't tell me to shut up" or "Don't tell me to sit down" or whatever.
Oh, maybe I should get one of those.
And so it's a thing, but
okay.
Hopefully when you go up, you get into a section that you'll have some fun in. When I went up, my second game was 2014 against the Falcons, where Julio basically carried the Falcons on his back, and they almost came back and won that game. I was with a good group. Everybody around us were making noise. Matter of fact, it was funny because the guy sitting next to me was a Detroit Lions fan. And he was wearing a Detroit Lions hat, and I was like, "Dude, did you get lost somewhere?" And it didn't. But he'd never been to an NFL game, and his friend had a couple of tickets, so him and his friend came, and it was really fun. It was cold as can be, and it had just snowed, and so we were all sopping wet because it was that wet snow. And I'm trying to remember what they said the final temperature with the wind chill was. It was like -20 or -19 or something like that with the wind chill.
Oh, I would die.
And so we're all just cold. We're all on our feet just trying to stay warm,
Right. Sure.
And stuff like that. So if you can get into a group like that, you're going to have tons of fun. Not everybody's an old fud dud up there.
Yeah. Well,
I'm telling you, I'm really trying to behave myself on here. You can ask Nick.
I've
been dropping some bombs by now.
We were wet as can be.
Very nice. We appreciate that. This is a family show after all. Okay, guys. Well, it's getting to that time of the evening where we talk about our superlatives from the week, unless anyone has any more comments about the schedule dropping.
Well, I just want to ask Nick, because we had a chance to hear about how Joe became a Packers fan.
I was just going to say, Nick probably should tell how it's been a Packers.
Yeah, I want to hear Nick's story.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of a weird one, I guess. Like, being in Australia, I mean, I feel like I'm at the point now where I can pretty confidently say I'm the biggest Packers fan in Australia. I'm pretty rabidly obsessive. But I mean, yeah, I always liked American football. Like when I was a kid, I was actually a Chargers fan originally because I watched LT. He was my favorite player at that time. Just the sheer drip, I love that. And then and then after a while, I just kind of forgot about it, and then I picked it back up in high school, just watching Aaron Rodgers highlights, as dumb as that is. And I was just because I started with Aaron Rodgers, he seems pretty cool, and he's a very talented individual. And then going more and more into the history of the actual team, the more I actually got into it. I mean, it's the fact that the team is not for profit and it's owned, by the city of Green Bay. I just find that that's just so special, and especially in a league that literally is worth more than any other country's sport industry. That's incredible. $1 billion sports team that's still has country values, and the whole story of why they're still in Green Bay is just it's just so incredible. And I really love the way that they run the team. I love Goot. I really, really love Goot, and of course Ted Thompson, and even going back to the Wolf days. Obviously I wasn't there for that, but just reading up about how all that happened, and the confidence that Wolf had to operate the way that he did in the 90s. It was just astounding, and it's amazing that kind of shift still is the framework for how the Packers are run today. They just have such a rich history, a very old team, and there's always a thing of green and gold is also the colors of the Australian national team. Whenever we do the Olympics or any kind of international sport, Australia's green and gold. But the Packers they're just cool, man. And even though I started watching Aaron Rodgers, I'm always team first kind of person. I was very much on the train that we should have traded him a season ago, and it's just cool. I really like not having to cheer for some billionaire. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's actually it's really it's about the sport, and the money goes back to the community and building the community. It's not just making David Tepper even richer, and they're not just funneling resources into getting better like some NBA team. They're they're trying to do it the honest way, whatever that means. Which it's really admirable.
I like how you talked about that, Nick, because like sometimes people will say like, why should I be a Packers fan? Like, how would you convince me to switch, allegiances? Or if they're just getting into football, I've had people actually ask me this before, like, why do you love the Packers? And like all that stuff you said about the ties to the community, the doing things like the right way, being owned by the fans and by the people. Yeah. The rich history. And then having like an amazing player like Aaron Rodgers. You said, you would watch Aaron Rodgers highlights and you said, this is kind of stupid. It's not stupid at all, man. Like for as like as things kind of ended with him and his time here, still just it's so much fun to watch those highlights, the throws.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's kind of like the blueprint for the modern quarterback. I mean,
Mhm.
prime Aaron Rodgers is basically what Mahomes is, and yeah, no, it's just it's just so cool. I love that.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. I think that's why the game I would love to see would be the Chargers and the Packers, because it'd be Herbert.
Yeah.
And I think I think Herbert is very special.
Mhm.
So, and hopefully Love will be as well. But, well, cool.
Yes,
I love that. And so for those who are listening or watching and they are wondering about Nick's, obviously it's an Australian accent. Where are you? What town are you? What city are you living in?
So
Australia.
I'm in Melbourne, which is objectively the best city in Melbourne. In
Yes.
Australia.
Yes.
When we started the pod, I was living in St Kilda, which is like, have you guys heard of Luna Park? It's like a big mouth theme park. It's not about mouths, but the entrance to the theme park is like this big, grotesque, like weird mouth thing. I'll pull up a photo. Like trying to explain that to Dusty and Sarah the first time I met them was like,
Well, the Opera House is an architectural wonder. That's in Melbourne.
That's in Sydney. So this is
that's
Luna
Sydney.
Park.
Okay.
This is
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Okay.
It's like actually, but like the Opera House is really cool. That's in Sydney. Melbourne's cool because it's like the art city. It's like like the cool city.
Okay.
It's the most livable city in Australia, and a couple of years ago, it won the award for most livable city in the world. But
Nice.
Melbourne's really cool, and like I'm very grateful to be living in Australia. Like, especially like I'm half Filipino, and like seeing like when I'm to the Philippines, which is like a long time ago now, but even just seeing like the way people live in other countries, and like I feel very grateful to be living in Australia, and to have the opportunities I have. It's like it's cool, And sorry, a bit off topic,
nice.
but
No.
it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Off topic is the vibe of the show for us.
That's right. That's really sort of get off track. Okay, so it's time for our superlatives. Now, I'm not sure if Joe and Nick are familiar with our show where we do superlatives. Yes. So, Maddie, would you like to start out with a superlative, and then we'll go Joe, Nick, and then I'll like do one and then
do one.
Do one.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. I want to start with something really awesome that I saw this week. Going through the whole draft, I started getting more of an appreciation for the work and the brain that Tyler Brook brought to all the stuff. He was doing a lot of podcasts with hey Brian Murphy. He was doing a lot of podcasts with Justice Mosqueda, who already like had a good sense of like how awesome he was. So got to know Tyler Brook's work a bit better. And recently he started a YouTube channel doing his own breakdowns of players and stuff like that. And then he had our friend Dusty Evely as a guest this week. And the real question he wanted to ask Dusty and kind of go through is like, what do we think the Packers offense is going to look like, now that we're in this new era, new quarterback, new everything. And so Dusty kind of brought 3 clips of Jordan Love plays from last season and talked about how, of course, it's a small sample size, but we can see there's things that he's doing and tendencies he has that are very different than Aaron Rodgers. Especially Dusty highlighted how Jordan Love was like comfortable throwing to the middle of the field, which novel concept for us as Packers fans.
Is that allowed?
I guess it's legal. I don't know. So, and talking about like the way how he was able to like adjust his reads as he's like bouncing back, like his 3-step drop turning to a 5-step drop as he sees the read, like as he's moving, throwing the ball like perfectly in time so that the receiver could like get to where it was and like get a nice clean catch. And like, people will say, oh, the Eagles didn't prepare in the game planning for Jordan Love. They're preparing for Aaron Rodgers. Like, yeah, but he still looked really good against obviously one of the best teams in the league last year. Like, the stuff that he was putting on tape is exciting, and to hear Dusty break down why it's exciting was really cool. So highly recommend going back and checking that out if you didn't. And I'm looking forward to checking out more of Tyler Brooks stuff on his YouTube channel.
That sounds fantastic. I will check it out. I saw a little blurb about it, but I didn't get to full on. In my defense, I've been watching a trial that's gone on for like 5 weeks, and they just did closing arguments. Finally today, they're in deliberations now. They have paused for the night, thankfully, because otherwise I would have been like waiting, for it should happen tomorrow, the verdict, we think. But anyway, so in my defense, I was trying to just stay on top of that, but soon it will be over. The trial of the century, as it's called in the United States.
The century's so young still.
I know.
And it seems like every other week we're having a trial of the century. Anyway.
I know. There's already been 2 this year. It's been Alec Murdaugh and his craziness. And anyway, I will watch the whole thing. I will read the whole thing for sure. Watch, read, or listen to the whole thing, one or the other. Joe, do you have a superlative for us this week?
I do, even though I'm going to cheat because it's kind of a last minute thing that I did. I'm going to me and Nick kind of call him our unofficial official sponsor. So this is a way to kind of cover our bases with it too. But my best friend, he's like a brother to me. Wes Hoyda is an amazing artist. He does pencil drawings. He's been getting into some painting type stuff. And, he's got a website that he tries to sell a lot of his stuff off of. I think he's now starting to get into where he's going to I don't know if they're like arts and crafts shows or I think he's been going to some card shows and that, and he had a deal in place with a card shop up around where he lives where he was selling some of his stuff out of there. But I was going to see if I could try to present this because I have a copy.
And then also, when we're done with the show, all of the superlatives, we will drop them into the description, the links and stuff. So if you're mentioning anyone and I don't have that information yet, we'll just send it through Twitter and I'll upload it. All right, Iowa Joe. Ooh, cool.
Oh, wow. So this is a situation where the people listening to the podcast should really jump on the video for a minute to check out. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of the ones that he actually got signed. But if you go to his website, which, give me a second here and I can give you the actual website. I told him to shorten it, otherwise I wouldn't be able to remember it. Because it's such a long URL.
While you're looking for that, we're saying hi to Brian Maffey, who has joined the chat. It's good to see you, Brian.
It's Hoyda Original Artwork. It's HOIDA original-artwork.com.
All right.
And yeah, he does amazing stuff. And it's not just sports things. Because whenever he gets something done, he always text message me and says, here, take a look at this. And I'll tell, obviously I tell him a lot of it's great, but there's sometimes I'll say, well, maybe fix this or fix that in it. But the last thing he did was a color, shadow drawing of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for somebody. And It was those guys standing on the buildings in New York with the starry background and the moon and all that. And so So I kind of cheated with that one because it kind of covers both bases with it. So yeah, that's my guy. Creative, and he was for a while. He did this constantly, but he finally got rid of his socials because he was tired of dealing with people on socials. But he went for almost a year and a half tweeting at the Packers to become the official artist of the Green Bay Packers. So he every day for a year. Yeah.
I remember that. Okay, cool.
Very nice. Very nice. Best artist of the week.
Yep.
OidaOriginalArt.com. All right, Nick, any superlatives?
Yeah, so I'm a big podcast listener, as someone who doesn't live in America, all I consume is like what you guys put out. I don't really get to be like around the community and all that. So my favorite part is probably The Athletic, and they talked a lot about they talked a lot about the Packers this week. Nate Tice had Jordan Love quite high in his NFC quarterback rankings. He's like kind of a believer, which I thought was pretty funny. And yeah, the one that like really stuck out to me, I was listening to it this morning. That episode that came out most recently with Randy Mueller and Mike Sando, that like previous NFL GM, kind of giving his like thoughts on what's happening in the league, and he was talking about how many first round picks we now have starting in this defense, 8, and like not including ones that we signed as free agents. 8 of our own first round picks starting in his defense, and that's basically like unprecedented. And he talked about how some of the best defenses ever have only had like 4, and that's even pretty excessive. Wow. Like I think he said the 85 Bears only had 4. The Steel Curtain only had 2 first rounders, and it's like kind of what me and Khan was talking about a little while ago, that the pressure this season isn't on Jordan Love necessarily, it's on Joe Barry. And it's kind of like, this is the last straw, it's like, this is kind of like I could honestly see, like a late season firing or something like that if like it gets really bad, which I don't think it will. I think it's going to ride on average as it kind of has. But it's like, it's like a pretty actually like when you look back at just how much resources we've poured into the defense, it's pretty ridiculous, really. Like the fact that we haven't taken even an O-line in the first, the wide receiver thing, it's kind of whatever. We always get sniped anyway. But like, there's like the fact that we have so many, like even in rounds where we've had multiple, so even in years where we've had multiple first round picks, they've all gone towards the defense, trading up, trading down to defense. Yeah, the only offensive selection we've had in the past 10 years now, 11, 12 years has been Jordan Love, which is just like, it's crazy. And I think it's really interesting, because I think, when people complain about how bad the defense has been and say, we should stop wasting first round picks, that's kind of like a pretty silly mentality. But at the same time, it's kind of like, when does it end as well? I get, you see, like, there's a point where you kind of like have to look towards the coaching staff. And, I imagine that Matt LaFleur is going to be taking more control of the defense even this year, which is good. I think he's a guy that's kind of a little bit tentative sometimes of like asserting himself as the leader of the clubhouse. And even for Matt LaFleur, this is a very important year. And Randy Mueller also talked about how the face of the franchise is Matt LaFleur now. There's not really one player who's like the guy that's like everyone's like looking to carry the team. It's really Matt LaFleur, and it's just theoretically a chance for him to show his offense if that all the stuff with Rodgers is true, that he has been changing the offense. And so it's just a really interesting shift in framework for a team that has been led by Aaron Rodgers for so long, and kind of a true shift in philosophy. We talked about it last year, but still they really wanted to be that offensive team, and by EPA and a lot of advanced metrics, they finished ahead in offense. And it'd just be like quite fascinating just to see how it unravels, and the whether or not the Packers roster building strategy actually pays off.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I love that you're talking about that podcast, the Football GM podcast from the Athletic podcast feed. That one is so good every week. And like, I gotta say, when I first started listening to it, when they started it, I was like, these guys are kind of folksy, like what's their deal? But like, they really grow on you. And Joe Mueller is for as like kind of like aw shucks as he comes across, he's really sharp and just a lot of fun to listen to him and Mike Sando's like chemistry and stuff like that. So I saw that one come across my podcast feed, and I'm glad you endorsed it because I haven't gotten a chance to get to it yet. And I'm excited to hear that one. So awesome.
Yeah, I heard someone else talking about the defense. I can't remember what the conversation was or who I was listening to yesterday about, our expectations, rightfully so, for the defense last year, and then how this year it's even going to be more so, and how much of it might have been coaching, but maybe some of it was just kind of fluky stuff. So we'll find out this year if it was just flukes, right? And I agree. And maybe that's why Joe Barry is still there, right? Because maybe it really wasn't all on the coaching or players, or it was just some weird things that didn't come together and some flukes and things like that. So let's hope so, especially with that number of first round. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you step back, you're like, oh wow, like that's like you look at all the drafts, like, oh man,
Yeah.
like even Kenny Clark was 7 years ago, right? So like, it was 2016, is that right? Like yeah, like quite
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's nuts. And
Right.
actually, I want to say something about Wendell Ferreira also shares a lot of really good like advanced information, and he shared one either today or yesterday that was showing like Packers defense EPA, where like comparing rushing and passing defense EPA, and teams that got the most defensive production off of turnovers, and the Packers were the 4th highest in the league off of turnovers. So, yeah, fingers crossed, but the statistics are like really not on Joe Barry's side.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pressure on LaFleur, Barry, certainly Jordan Love, right?
Well, definitely LaFleur, because now we'll actually be able to see his offense being played the way it should.
I hope so.
And if I think this year's going to be a buffer year, because I don't think I'm not going to say they're going to be a dumpster fire by no means. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we're going to go 1-16 and stuff like that. But I don't see it being, Super Bowl or bust this year.
Right.
I think this year's going to be the year that they're going to take to see what they have. And then next year will be the year to produce. So while this year the seat isn't on fire, it's definitely getting warm for Gutekunst and LaFleur, definitely Barry. So, but it'll be 2024 is when that seat will be super hot.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be honest with you, Joe. It's definitely going to be like, how could you fire, Goody or LaFleur after this year, which is going to be like I like to say, a growing year for the offense, but for the defense, man, they got no excuses. It's not like they're lost their best players or anything like that. Like they need to show that they can, that they're worth having all those first round picks in there. And I feel like I would understand if, like you're saying, if it wasn't like, Barry's seat is on fire, but I feel like it should be, frankly.
It probably is, but I think they're going to give him a chance just because it is a growing year and he's going to have a ton of new weapons right now. I mean, what was it? There was 13 total draft picks in this last draft, and probably half of them were on the defensive side of the ball. So he's going to have all those added guys in there that are more suited for his system than before. His seat is definitely hot, but if he doesn't produce and they keep him around next year, he's going to be on basically a spit.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I can't imagine at least Barry is going to get 2 years. I mean, I think Jordan should get a 2-year, like you say, this year's the buffer year, and next year we'll see what everybody, and that makes sense with Matt. I don't think Matt is going to be on the hot seat anytime soon. Yeah, it's all going to be so interesting. That's for sure.
I think that's why this year is so exciting for me, because it's something new.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a big Rodgers fan. I was one of the few, and I know it's hard to say this because I don't have the receipts, but I was one of the few that really liked the drafting of Aaron Rodgers. Did you shut up, Nick?
Aaron Rodgers is taking you to the toilet bowl. Brett Favre will take you to the Super Bowl.
No, but I really was. I loved it because while I was a big Favre supporter and all that stuff, I understood the need to get somebody to have that succession. Just like I said with Rodgers, even though I didn't love the love pick, I understood it in a way because you still have to set up that succession with your quarterbacks. You can't be like a Bears team or a Chargers team or something where you just gotta hope a guy's gonna get you where you need to go straight out of college. And I mean, look how other teams have dealt with. The Bears haven't. I mean, we'll see what happens with Justin Fields, but they haven't had a competent quarterback in however many years. What was this? I can't remember who posted this, but they posted the last 4,000-yard quarterback for each team, and the Bears haven't had any in their whole.
They're the only team who hasn't too. It was hilarious.
So, and then you look at
even the Jets.
That's so funny.
even the Jets had Namath. Namath was their last one. But and then you look at the Jets. They drafted Zach Wilson to be that guy. They've drafted, I'm going to date myself with this one, but Chad Pennington, and guys like that to come in and be the starter of their teams, and they just don't work out. Where they have to be forced to trade for a Favre or a Rodgers or something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I understand the succession point of it.
It would have been malpractice for him not to have somebody in line. I mean, did he have to trade up and all that? Well, that's who they wanted. I mean, that's where it came up on the board. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's going to be. And Love is still young. He's 24. I think he was the same age as most of the guys that were taken this year in this year's draft. So, and then you got Stetson Bennett that was like...
he's younger than a couple of guys.
Yeah, that he's like 57 years old and still throwing the football around. But, he's still young. He's going to make his mistakes, but you got to give him the year to at least see what he can do.
Yeah.
And then the next year is when you say, you better have it figured out.
Yeah, and a lot of that is on Matt too. Well, I'm going to just really quick go through my 3 superlatives.
We got to get Matt to bed. He's going to pass out here pretty soon.
We're getting there.
After midnight, Cincinnati. That's right.
So briefly, I've got most delightful. This is the deep dive that Andy Herman did on the Carl's Brooks. It's absolutely, if you want to get excited about the season, his energy in this video is just, in podcast, is just infectious. So that was a really fun one, and I loathe to to continue to use the same content creators for my superlatives the week after
go
week,
for
but
it.
I couldn't help it.
It's hard not to.
It was so fun. This scouting report he did for Carl Brooks was just super exciting. So you wanna.
It's your show. You make up your own rules for
it. And we're here to give you try to give you the best content, right? So you can save time and not have to sloth through all the rest of it. So there you go.
But Andy's breakdowns. Andy's breakdowns of the new players have been exceptional. Like, I've really enjoyed them. That was a good one. Yeah. The one with Don TV and Wicks that he did was also one of my favorite ones. But I digress. Go ahead.
Yes. Best answer goes to Jordan Love. Speak of the devil. Jordan Love, when he was asked if and how he might have learned, I'm sorry, leadership from Aaron Rodgers. I'm just gonna laugh. Okay, I'm not even gonna finish the rest of what I had to say about that. And then best background for a video, and I'm kind of in the vibe of Room Raider. Do you guys know what Room Raider is?
No.
It's kind of fun. It's a Twitter account that came up during COVID when everybody started doing Zooms and Skypes and this kind of thing. They look at your room, like your setup.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And they rate it. And I'm going to get an F.
Yeah, they don't tell you. It's gotten really mainstream, unfortunately. But in the vein of Room Raider, it goes to Weston Hodkowitz, who was just recently a guest. Yep, he's up on the 5th floor now doing his podcast from the 5th floor of 1265. So that's pretty fun. And I did have one, and I guess I didn't write it down. My cat is meowing at me because it's her playtime, you guys. And it was the best thread. And there were a couple that were just amazing. And one is non-football. I will drop it in the description, but not bore you with it right now. But it's, oh my gosh, she's yelling. Did you hear that? She's like,
yeah.
I had to put a blanket on my door so my dog wasn't sitting there scratching at the
Well, she, it's her time. And this is a weird time for us. But also, as we mentioned, the Chargers social media, the Pop-Tart.
The Pop-Tart thing, yeah.
That's
awesome.
And let's face it, it's so hard to pick because there's so many great content creators out there.
There's so
everything.
many. But you got
I-
those 3 are my 3 recommendations. So
I
Any more?
really enjoyed the Panthers one. The
Panthers.
Bukowski.
Yeah.
Are they the ones
Bukowski.
with the cats? Okay, because somebody said something about cats, and I haven't seen that one. Was that? Oh, I can't.
Yeah, the Panthers did like every team as cats, and then for
That's
the Green Bay,
great.
they did a cat version of Bukowski.
Hilarious. And it's so spot on too. So perfect.
Somebody said something about cats, and I was like, "What cats? I got Pop-Tarts, and that's my part I got." And then Katie kept messaging me, our friend of the show, Katie Sunderman, who's actually going to be guest hosting for me in a couple of weeks here. She was like, "Did you read this on Twitter? Did you read that? Did you all day?" And I'm like, "I'm up." And so then I jump on as soon as I get a minute to breathe, and then off. So it's kind of was sporadic today. So, any more superlatives from Matt, Joe?
Yeah, I got one more. I'll jump in. with
Yeah,
my
I
other
got one more that I stole from Nick. So
Perfect.
Awesome. We love stolen superlatives here.
So my other one for this week, this is I didn't think of a name for it, I guess, but maybe just for me it'd be best thread. So we're talking about like how the Packers social media, like, you know, kind of sedate, kind of you know, conservative in a way. Well, I mentioned like they should get Tyler Herrick to do their socials. I mean, again, the building would implode if they did, but because what he did, and this was so awesome, he took like a highlight, a Packers versus like an opposing team, a highlight for each of the, you know, teams we're going to be playing this year. I guess it's sort of like schedule release kind of a thing. And so it's just some really fantastic highlights in there.
Yes.
Like Tramon Williams burning the Falcons, for example, you know, like just like going through those, it's just like red meat for the fan base. And it was so much fun to look through those. And that's just Tyler Herrick, he just shows up and he wins.
The best.
I
only saw like the first 2, same reason. I was just not on very long, but that's a good one, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And for Cheesehead TV. Very good. Love it. And Joe, you have another or did you have more?
Well, I'm going to go off because when Nick said he was going to be late, he sent me a bunch of what his superlatives was. So I'm going to kind of bounce off of what his is. He had best draft pick name. I'm going to go with best draft pick nickname. And of course, I got to go with the Iowa guy. I got to go with Hercules. What better way can you go with Hercules than, you know, so I got to say best nickname of a draft pick.
I like it.
You got Hercules and Bane. What better duo can you have?
I heard there were 2 Herculeses this year, though.
Yeah, the international player, the guy as part of that program that I can't think of the name of, and he has a very African name, so I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, he also has the Hercules nickname.
Oh, cool. We have 2
go.
Hercules.
And I think they both play the same position, edge.
That's right. Would
that be Herculi because it's plural?
Oh, there you go. You're thinking outside the box on this one.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I saw someone mention for every single tight end, there's like, oh, they call him Baby Gronk for like literally every
Yeah, some of these are a little, yeah. All right. Any more? What's another superlative that you send over to Joe, Nick? Anything else?
Yeah, you had a whole list of them. Give us something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I sent quite a few. I might just do. Okay, this one's easy. Best new rookie jersey number, and I think for me it's quite easy. Anthony Johnson Jr. 36. I'm a real sucker for some of those in between numbers that aren't as common, like 36, 87. I really like when I played football here, I wore number 9, so I like number 9, Christian Watson, and yeah, you know, it's a sick number. I think, and like, you know, obviously the Nick Collins thing, you know, we talked about. Obviously, prestigious Vernon Scott, you know, inactive hero. Quite some big shoes to fill for Anthony Johnson. So, yeah, I think 36 is a really great number for a safety.
Okay.
I will say I'm disappointed nobody took 0 with the league opening up number 0. I'm really disappointed one of the rookies didn't.
I love how Jaden Reed had number 1 for like 30 minutes, and they were like,
and everybody went nuts.
Can't do that. I was wondering if Nick's gonna grab 0. Actually, I think that'd be awesome.
I heard about the 0. There was a reason. That they weren't. I can't remember what it was.
I feel like the Packers are one of those teams that are just like not gonna let anyone wear 0. It just feels like a weird thing.
Yeah.
It'll be 20 years before they do.
Well, you know, everybody was throwing a fit about them issuing Jaden Reed number 1 when they announced the pick. But I know a few years back, Alex Gillette was on the team and saw some action, and he was wearing number 1. It's just it's not actually retired. It's just unofficially.
Yeah.
Just like Horning's number 5 is unofficially retired. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I figured one of the young kids would take the 0, but I guess they didn't want it. So, but we're running out of numbers. Eventually, we're going to have to go to like 4.56.
Yeah, they're going to have to stop retiring jerseys. That's what they're going to have to do.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Like while we're on this, what's everyone's favorite jersey number? Mine is 21. I think that's probably the best number in the world, 21 for a jersey. But like, what's all your guys' favorite jersey numbers?
Well, mine is 10. That's my number.
92.
I don't know.
21 is good. 21's good, but
That's
my
an
number
LT.
is 10 in general. Yeah.
I think
92.
18.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
I can't do a good one.
And 92, just because that was I've always loved that number. You know, Reggie was the man. Everybody loved Favre,
Sure.
but Reggie was my guy. He was the first jersey I ever had, and when the Packers retired it, I retired that one, so it's sitting in a box somewhere. So,
I love
but
that.
yeah, 92. 18's great though.
Well, mine is just like for a number. I don't really have a person, but it happens to be Jordan Love this year. My sister, when she saw him drafted and she saw that he got number 10, she was like, "He's even got your number done." It's great.
And then you texted him your number so he could call you. So.
Oh boy! By the way,
love is in love.
Okay, the defensive lineman from Nigeria who joined the Packers as part of the NFL International Player Pathway Program.
There it is. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, right.
And he doesn't actually count on the 90-man roster. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Very,
if
very
he
cool.
were to be added to the practice squad, he still wouldn't count against
As practice,
anything. Yeah.
unless he gets on the team, right?
Yeah, unless he gets on the active roster. But from what I saw, he's got a good build to him, so he's going to be an interesting prospect.
Yeah, definitely. I hope he does. I hope he makes it on the roster. That'd be just such a cool story. I really hope that ends up happening.
Well, now I know Nick might not, but do you guys remember back in the late 90s when they tried to do the same thing with Japan, and the Packers played a preseason game in Japan?
Yes.
And they actually had 2 or 3 Japanese players on each team. I can't remember who the Packers played.
I wasn't even born at that time.
Yeah, that's why I said I know Nick doesn't know this.
So do you guys know how to pronounce this player from Nigeria's name?
I have a hard time pronouncing my own name sometimes.
Odemeg.
Gonna do it. Here we go. You ready?
Oh, go ahead.
Kenneth. How's that? So far pretty good. Odemegwu.
That's all we need.
Odemegwu. It's gonna be Kenneth Odemegwu.
Odemegwu.
I'm gonna go with Matt. Matt, you nailed it.
I'm gonna find out for sure.
I'm going to clip that, and every time anybody asks me about it, I'm just going to play Matt's.
Yes. Well, we try really hard on this show to get the pronunciations down.
We care deeply about that. Which, by the way, hey, just a spoiler alert for everybody. I'm going to be starting a new crusade soon, like I did with Yash Nyman. Most people pronounce his name correctly now, which I'm very happy about. Kingsley and Nagbara, people.
Enigbara, not Enigbara.
And I have the clip from Sunday Night Football where he says his own name. I'm gonna be posting that soon. I'm gonna get insufferable about it. I'll be tagging people on it.
And also, to be fair, it's JJ as well, right?
Also, well, yeah,
JJ.
That's true.
Nick and I fought about that all year.
I swore I watched a video where he said Anagburi, and I was like, that sounds so weird.
So yeah, the very first time that he like said his name in a Packers thing, is like he rode his bike up to the cameras like he's just drafted, like says his name like, "Hey guys," but it sounds like an Egbari that time. But then when he said it on Sunday Night Football, it was like just a little bit clearer, and it was an Egbara. So I think it's something. It's like just kind of like that, like we're in the like area there between the E and the E. But yeah, it's
but it's just like Tunyon. everybody kept calling him Tanyan
Tanyan,
until he
some people
finally
still do.
said, you know, hey, my last name's
Yeah.
Tunyon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, care deeply about this correct pronunciation, because
sure.
people, the most basic way to show respect to somebody is to like say their name correctly, because that's
Yeah,
such a
absolutely.
basic
Right.
thing.
And you know, people struggle with my name because of the way it's spelled, and I really don't care if is mispronounced at all.
I'm going to take a guess at it. You know, here we're going to Dacquisto.
That is
was
the
one I- that's what
American
I'd
way.
say.
That is correct. It's either Dacquisto or in Wisconsin it's Dacquisto, and then down here where people speak a lot of Spanish, it's Dacquisto.
Okay.
So
I was thinking more along Italian lines.
Right.
So.
Well, right,
That's
but the Spanish people, we have a
Right.
lot of Spanish influence, so
Sure.
they just have a different.
Well, that's how I made my guess. Was I was like, okay, well, it looks Italian, so I'm going to
Yep.
stick with the Italian side of it.
Yeah, I really should have gone back to my maiden name, which was Thomas. So much easier.
Don Thomas.
I still
I-
kind of order a
I
pizza.
like
That's what I use.
You know, we
Right.
could have a whole other podcast on this because I do genealogy, so I see weird names all the
Wow.
time.
Cool.
And I love my last name's Pearson. And if
I
you,
thought it was Joe.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought it was
See,
Montana.
nobody knows it.
Iowa Joe Montana.
But when I tell people how it, you know, how we pronounce it, it's Pearson. They always want to spell it Pierson. Well, that's not it. It's Pearson.
Mhm.
It's just somehow when the great grandparents came across the boat, it changed pronunciations along with spellings. So,
Mhm.
but I love that stuff. I could have a whole nother podcast just on ancestry stuff.
That'd be fun. You should do
Yeah.
it. You should do it.
Why not?
Brian Matthey's favorite is 36. He always wore 36, and he loved the Chargers release video as well. All right. Any final superlatives before we sign off for the
Nope,
night?
I'm good.
We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get Maddie to bed. We got to get my cat under control before
It's
she
quite late here.
jumps
Um,
in.
Yeah, and I just imagine I got to check on my beagle pup. So
Aw. Okay.
Well, folks, yeah, so this was really fun combining our podcast for the week. This was really great to have a chance to get to know you better, Joe and Nick.
Yeah.
Really good times.
well,
I guess
like
you guys
I said,
want to say
I
a
know.
thing.
I know we've had interactions on everywhere else, but this, you know, and then you guys were on the live stream, and
Mhm.
you know, I was like, okay, well, at least we're here at a decent time now, whereas me and Nick usually record at like 1 a.m. Central
middle.
Standard Time. So,
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, cool. But before I get to like our kind of like ending script here, do you guys have anything else you want to like add or tell the people where they can find you on Twitter or anything like that?
Mine's easy. It's at Iowa_Joe86, Instagram and Twitter. Nick will give you the Outback Packers stuff because he runs our Twitter page on that. I do a little bit of the rest of it, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just at Nicholas GRGR. The podcast is at Outback_Packers. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to you guys for having us on. I wanted to talk to you guys for so long, and kind of feels like destiny. I think, like, you know, me and Matt Beth being on the Pack a Day thing, exchange program. Yeah, it's like really nice, funny to talk to you guys. And I think, yeah, I do listen to your guys' stuff, so it's really cool to actually be involved and interact with you guys. Thanks.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really great
Me.
being on here and appreciate it. And I love the crossover stuff. I'm glad we can make this work because this is one of the nights we normally record in the off season. So it just made sense for us to do this little bit of a crossover, but you know, it's great. And hopefully we can talk to each other during the season and, you know, do some of that stuff too.
And maybe future, additional crossover podcasts. This is great.
Yeah,
So
there you go. And maybe one of these days we'll get Nick up to Green Bay and we'll just have a big old, huge crossover up there.
Oh, that would be so great, Nick. This year, do you think? Next year?
Maybe I don't know. I always wanted to see Rodgers play before he retired. So in all likelihood, it would probably be a Jets game before. But yeah, because like when in 2021, I told Joe this, but I was convinced that we were going to the Super Bowl. And I was like, I told him because I just started a new job because I'm a chef by trade, and I just started a new job in a new kitchen. And it's like it was the middle of summer, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, but if the Packers go to the Super Bowl, I'm leaving like in a week, and then I booked the tickets. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was so ready. I was so ready to spend my savings because like tickets are so expensive and everything. But I mean, luckily for me, it never happened. So
Luckily for your budget.
Good thing.
yeah, I definitely want to. My girlfriend's over there. She's working like at like a summer camp in Boston or in Maine, technically, I think.
Yeah.
And like she's over there for like 3 months, so I'm gonna get her to like do all the because she starts in New York, so I'm gonna get her to try and hunt down Aaron Rodgers and get a photo.
There you go. There you go. That'd be great.
All right, Don. Anything before I do the sign off here?
No, let's bring her home before you guys see my cat actually maul me on online to be like.
Well, we now know what happened to your lip. The cat got mad.
Guys, the cat's trying to kill her. This is an ongoing thing that
he
I've
says
noticed,
so. She's not.
When Tosh was screaming earlier, I was like, "She's getting ready, Don. Tonight's the night she strikes."
Don't pass out in the house at any time because if the cats are the first ones to eat you if something happens.
Exactly.
That's why they need you.
I heard that. Oh
That's
yeah,
why they
they're
need.
tenderizing.
Yep,
Meat
tenderizing you up and.
Okay,
Well,
gosh, I'm
Nick and
almost
Joe, guys, this is awesome. Folks who are listening, make sure to check them out on Twitter. Please give their podcast a listen. Outback Packers. It's a really good podcast. They're a lot of fun to listen to. Please, jump on, like, subscribe, do that kind of stuff for them because they're doing some good work. So, friends, of course, you'll find links in our show description for everyone we mentioned. So please check it out. And quick side note, by the way, I almost forgot. I just want to say before we get out of here, Nick, I'm glad that you mentioned Wendell Ferreira, who I think is also very underrated on Packers Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Puts out exceptional stuff all the time. People never talk about him. He's amazing. So anyhow,
right, yeah.
We'll have a link to Wendell's Twitter as well. But let me see, where was that? So, I'll have the links in our show description. And also, we'd love to have a chance to interview you and shout you out if you're a subscriber or a football fan. Great. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know. Our DMs are open on all the social platforms. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow, as well as the Outback Packers podcast grow, is by sharing it with your friends and family.
Yes, Maddie, that's right, because we all love you. We're so glad to know you, to be fans of you, and have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod, and we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, bad stuff happens.